It's time to share secrets and insights from fellow entrepreneurs. If you're looking to grow or start a business and you're a game changer, then keep listening to Avanti Entrepreneur for great advice from your host, Dave Mammano, America's Entrepreneur Coach.
Hey, Avanti Tribe, Dave Mammano here. Just want to thank our sponsor, Paychex. You know, Paychex, they make it simple for businesses of all sizes to pay and manage their team. They make payroll easy with employee pay options, including direct deposit, checks, pay cards, and so much more. Founded over 4 decades ago to relieve the complexity of running a business so that the owners can focus on what matters most. Above all else, and more than any other company, Paychex makes it simple. Visit AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Go to our partner link and check them out. They're offering you a free month of payroll just for giving them a shot as an Avanti Tribe member. Give them a shot, folks. They really help this podcast to be possible. Really appreciate Paychex. Now, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Dave Mammano, your host, and we are here to help achievers and business owners and leaders move forward so that they can reach their potential. I do this by interviewing just the nation's best business movers and shakers. Today, I have on the show, John Oechsle. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
So glad to have you. John, you are, read your bio here, we'll dig into it. John joined a company called Swiftpage in July of 2012, and he currently serves as president and CEO. John came to Swiftpage with over 30-year track record of building highly profitable and sustainable revenue growth for emerging companies and established global leaders. Prior to joining Swiftpage, John served as the Executive Vice President of Strategy and Product for DigitalGlobe. During his tenure, he was instrumental in shaping the future of the company and driving revenue growth through the launch of a number of very successful product lines. Prior to DigitalGlobe, John was the Senior Vice President of Technology and Content, as well as Chief Information Officer for IHS Incorporated. Earlier in his career, he occupied various executive and upper management technology roles in medical diagnostic, financial, and consumer product goal industries. John holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in computer science from Rutgers, and he's a graduate of the Tuck Executive Program at the Amos Tuck School of Business, Dartmouth College. So, John, and a little personal thing, John, when he's not at Swiftpage, he juggles his time being a husband, father, and grandfather, and spends time left playing golf, skiing, and boating. So, John, once again, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, thanks. Gosh, that was a good introduction. You sure that was me?
I think that was you. Oh no, this was another John. No, just kidding. So, John, you know, a lot of people might not know what Swiftpage is. I mean, a lot of people do, but just in case. The product that they might know that Swiftpage owns, it's called ACT, which is, I would say, it was one of the original trailblazers when it came to a sales CRM software program. And you,
correct.
And I'm so happy that I met you because, and I listened to your interview on a friend of mine, Stephen Wessner's Onward Nation podcast. I got really excited because when I started my company back in 1995, and I'm a salesman at heart, I was introduced to ACT. And it was kind of, at first I called it a Rolodex on steroids, but then you learn it's so much more, right? And it really, in my opinion, it was responsible for the success, the organization, the instigation of my sales strategy with my first company back in 1995. You know, since then, people have become very familiar with what ACT trailblazed with Salesforce is a big player now, HubSpot, et cetera. So I was using ACT for a long, long time, and this is, you guys didn't own it back then, right? And I was heartbroken because they, at that time, did not keep up with the times. When things were going to the cloud, the company that owned it got very tied into Microsoft and being on a server and, you know, being on the hardware. And so it kind of missed that ball, and I stopped using ACT because it wasn't in the cloud. It became clunky. And when I found out about 6 months ago that Swiftpage and you and your team there have, I'm going to say, really resurrected ACT and kind of took a sledgehammer to what was there and rebuilt all the greatness and added marketing automation and so much more. And now it is versatile, bucking and jiving in the cloud, and ACT is back. So I am super psyched to start using ACT again. And as a passionate ex-user and about to be current user again, very, very excited you guys brought it back. So if you don't mind, tell us about that whole journey of what made you guys bring back ACT.
Oh, this is a great story. It's a great journey. We're going to have a great time talking about this. And first of all, thank you for your passion. I can't tell you how many people I've met around the world. I mean, right now we have 85,000 customers, over 300,000 users around the world that wake up every morning with the same passion that you just described and use ACT to grow their business. And it just amazes me of how passionate and loyal our customer base is. So thank you for that. So yeah, let's talk about the journey, because it has been a wild one. So hold on, because this is going to be a good one. Let's start just by talking about Swiftpage. Swiftpage was founded in 2001 by a really good friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Bob Ogden. And Bob's a serial entrepreneur. He's done a bunch of startups and companies and builds them, sells them, then starts again. He said I think Swiftpage was his fifth company. Bob and I have known each other for 25 years, and he came to me probably in 2002, and he said, "Hey, John, you want to invest in my company?" And I was like, "Oh, Bob, I don't know. Friends investing with friends sometimes doesn't work out, but you know what? Yeah, sure, I'll invest in your company." So I was an early investor in Swiftpage. Now, Swiftpage was founded as a little email marketing company. So think about Constant Contact, MailChimp, etc. Around that period of time, all those companies were kind of like sprouting up, and it really had to do with a whole lot of the stuff that was the canned spam law that came out and was making it difficult for people to send out emails and etc. So then all of a sudden, all these email marketing companies started coming around, and Swiftpage was one of them. And so I invested in the company. I did a couple of rounds, etc. And they were, as any startup was, they were struggling a bit. And around 2006, after I had put in 3 rounds, I said, guys, what are we doing here? We created a strategy where the challenge was, as you have with a lot of small businesses, you have great technology, but you can't get customers. So how do you get customers? So we decided, and the small business, the SMB, was really the focus that they were going after. We decided to do what's called an OEM strategy, right? How do we embed our technology into somebody else's technology that has a lot of small businesses as their customers, and that's to use it like a channel to get to the actual customer. So we picked Sage as the player that we were going to do this with. And for those people that didn't know or don't know Sage, think of Intuit and say Sage is the Intuit of Europe, right? So they had small business financial software, etc. But at the time in 2006, Sage owned ACT. They owned SalesLogix, they had Sage CRM, and then they had another product called Sage 50, which was kind of like QuickBooks, if you think about that. And so we convinced Sage to allow us to embed our technology into ACT, SalesLogix, Sage CRM, and Sage 50. And it was wildly successful. So the company went from, $100,000 of revenue a year to $4.5 million a year, in a couple, 18, 24 months, etc. So we had, a lot of fun, and I was all excited because I know my investment was doing well, and that kind of stuff. And then it kind of stagnated a little bit, and then in 2009, somebody tried to buy Swiftpage, so I kind of helped Bob form a formal board, and got on that, brought a couple friends on that as well, and we helped them navigate through that, but it fell through, as deals do. In my background, I've probably done over 50 different deals, whether they be acquisitions or divestitures or whatever, and probably 150 to 200 of deals have fallen through, right? So it's like a lot of deals more deals fall through or fall apart than they do go forward. And so, I said, Bob, don't worry about it, etc. So long story short, we get to 2012, and guess what? We're still $4.5 million in revenue. We really haven't done anything. And so Bob asked me to step in. I actually tell a funny story. We were at a board meeting in January 2012. I went to the restroom. I came back in, and they said, John, you're the CEO of the company. I said, guys, you got to check the bylaws. I think there's a bathroom rule in there somewhere. You just can't do that, right? So, but no, seriously, I said, for sure. I was just finishing up at DigitalGlobe, leading a big acquisition over there. I said, let me get through that acquisition, and then, I'll come and help out the company here. So I came on board in July of 2012, and we still just had email marketing at that point in time. But we took a step back, Dave, and we said, let's look at the small business industry and say, what makes a small business successful? What, if you look at how small businesses grow, what do they do, and what do they do correctly in order to grow? We broke it down in the fact that we think small businesses need 4 digital pillars in order to grow. We call them presence, traffic, conversion, retention, and optimization tools. And if you just kind of define what that means, everybody knows what presence is, right? It's that digital presence, it's websites, it's Facebook page, it's LinkedIn, et cetera. So if you have good digital presence, then you need traffic to drive traffic to that presence, which creates leads. Then you need to take those leads, convert them to customers, retain those customers, and grow those customers. And then you need optimization tools like financial software, HR software, et cetera. If you have all 4 of those things working in harmony, your likelihood of you growing as a company is going to go higher. And we said, okay, so our strategy, we were dabbling in conversion and retention, by the way, with this little email marketing tool. And I said, our strategy is going to be, we are going to own conversion and retention for the SMB market. That's what we're going to do. And everybody looked at each other and they were like, yeah, this is fantastic. Yeah, great. And then, reality sets in and you say, okay, how the heck are you going to do this? And I said, well, the only way I know how to do it is to first define what is the anchor of conversion and retention. And so we debated that forever, and it said, well, really, guys, the anchor of conversion retention is CRM, right? That is the center of the universe of conversion and retention. I said, so we need to get a CRM. And the team said, no, we're going to build it. We're going to build it. And I said, no, you're not going to build it. Our grandkids will still be working on it by the time we get done this thing, right? We're going to go buy it. And they said, well, we're this little $4.5 million company, John. We're burning revenue. We're burning money. We're not making money. How the heck are we going to go acquire a company? I said, don't worry about that, and we'll figure it out. Now, at the same time, this is all in the July 2012 timeframe. At the same time, Sage makes a public announcement that they are divesting 7 companies. And 2 of those companies were Act and Sales Logics. So the first thing, and this is a really funny story because your listeners are going to love this one. So Bob, the founder, just happened to be over in the UK. Sage is headquartered in the UK, in the Sage office in July of 2012 when the Sage made this announcement. So if you think about it, remember that we were embedded in Act, Sales Logic, Sage CRM, and Sage 50. Well, 2 of those are getting divested off. So from a defensive standpoint, you're saying, geez, 60% of my revenue is going to get owned by somebody else. That could be a problem. And so, Bob kind of got upset, and he calls me on the phone. Now, remember, it's like 2:30 in the morning my time, right? Because he's in there, and I'm silly enough to answer the phone. And I said, what's going on? And he tells me, and I said, Bob, number one, I'm in my underwear, buddy. So it's kind of hard for me to talk about stuff here, but I'm gonna tell you what to do. I want you to hang up this phone. I want you to walk into the office of the head of corporate development, who was leading the sale, and I want you to tell him that we are going to purchase Act. And he said, how are we going to do that? I said, don't worry about the how, right? Just tell him we're going to do it. And he said, okay. Finally, after a little convincing. So he walked in there, told them, they laughed at us, and they said, yeah, whatever. So he comes back, and now my wheels are spinning, and I'm just like, we have to own this company. And so, we went to, I won't bore you with the whole long story. That could be a whole nother podcast. We could talk about how we were able to pull off this acquisition, but we pulled it off. And not only did we buy Act, by the way, we bought Sales Logics at the same time. So we bought 2 companies. We bought both Act and Sales Logics. And that we closed that acquisition, both of them, on March 21st of 2013. Right. So now we had our anchor. ACT was our anchor, and we also had this other company called SalesLogix. Now, at one point in time, we were like, yeah, this is great. We got, but remember, SalesLogix is an enterprise, mid to enterprise CRM, and they were fighting with Salesforce every single day. They were fighting with Sugar every single day. They were fighting with Microsoft Dynamics every single day. That's not what I wanted to get into. That was, way too distracting. But it was a good asset. We actually cleaned it up a little bit, and I divested that off to Infor in September of 2014. So we owned it for about 15 months. Now, here's the good thing with that your listeners are going to love. We divested off SalesLogix for 1.5 times what we paid for both companies. So it was a fantastic deal for, it was a great deal for Infor, and it was a fantastic deal for us and our shareholders, et cetera.
Yes,
so that's
money right away, and you got ACT.
We did. So now we have ACT, right? So now we looked at that. So, and ACT, right? So it is a phenomenal brand. What I always say is anybody over 40 loves it. Anybody under 40 can't spell it, but that's a different story. Anybody under 40 thinks it's the ACT test that you take to get into college.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we had this phenomenal brand, a big loyal base. At the time we acquired it, we probably had about, 50,000 users. 50,000 customers, a little over 150 to 160,000 users. It was global. So, it was, we went from this little tiny software company to, having a big global footprint. So all kinds of goodness. And as you know, the software itself was functionally rich, the most functionality in the industry, hands down. Now, with every acquisition are challenges. Right? And so this one had some challenges, and you've already mentioned it. Sage owned it for a number of years and basically let it die on the vine. Right? So they didn't really invest in the technology, although the actual functionality was rich. The technology and technology stacks was old. It was a closed desktop system, basically what it was. The channel had been eroding because Sage was kind of in conflict with the channel. We were losing some market share. Obviously, the brand, although it was very, very, is a very strong brand, it was a tired brand. People would say like, "Oh, ACT, is that still around?" That kind of stuff. So, the entire business was built around licenses and maintenance and stuff like that. So, there was a bunch of challenges. So, before we could really, say we're going to own conversion and retention, we had a lot of work to do to get our anchor back into shape. So we took our strategy and we broke it down to one layer down, and we said we're going to take this journey through 3 distinct eras: transformation era, conversion era, and growth era. Right? So that's what we said we were going to do. And we said, okay, let's talk about transformation. We're mentioning some of the things. We have to transform the technology. You can't sell closed desktop systems anymore. This is in 2013, right? You just can't do that. And so we had to transform the technology from closed desktop to an open cloud-enabled platform that can be, run in the cloud, can be a subscription platform, et cetera. So there's an enormous amount of work that we had to do there. We had to transform the entire back office. We had to rip all the systems out, put a whole new suite of systems in, whole new set of processes. It all had to be geared around subscription and subscription management, et cetera. We had to completely retool the inside sales force. We had to completely restructure and retool the channel. You name it, we had to do it, right? So there was a lot of work that we had to do, and a heavy investment that we put into this business. Now that time frame was from March of 2013 until May of 2015. In May of 2015, we now had this open cloud-enabled platform. So we launched an entire new portfolio of ACT products into the North American market in May of 2015. That was cloud-based, subscription-based, et cetera. And that enabled us to enter into what we call the conversion era. Right? So by the way, while we were going through all this transformation, we still had to sell desktop licenses and maintenance, to keep the business afloat, right? Because you couldn't just stop selling for 2 years while you were trying to do this. So now we're up to about 65,000 customers, all on either license or maintenance or whatever. So now we entered into a conversion era, which said, how do we convert these customers to the cloud and to subscription? And there was a couple of different ways that we did. One was we really took a look at our maintenance contracts, and we kind of just rolled those over into subscriptions. We had cyclical upgraders, and there was a bunch of things that we did, but it was very, very well. It was calculated, well thought out. We went after it. We staggered it. We did North America starting in May of 2015, and we did international in May of 2016. So now think of the years of 15, 16, and 17 as the conversion era. And so, it went swimmingly well, much better than we anticipated. And so we kind of brought it back. We started getting growth again. The name was coming back. People were liking it, et cetera. And so then we were starting to get in towards the end of 17, and we said, you know what? Now we need to start planning the growth era. And the growth era really gets back to three things. First, there was an enormous amount of organic growth that we still could do. There was lots of markets that were untapped and segments. We said the room for price increases, because when we moved people over from maintenance contracts to subscription, we kept them at the same price, and it was well below list price. So we had lots of room to move there. The second era, or the second segment inside of growth era, was geographic expansion. Now, we're globals. We sell in well over 100 countries, but 6 countries matter to us, right? So U.S. obviously is the largest country that we have. Then it's the U.K., then Canada, then Australia, then Germany, and then France. So those are our top 6 countries that basically produce 95% of our revenue. And then 5% comes from the other, I can't do the math, 96 other countries that are out there. So we really said, from a growth era, we want to get bigger into Latin America. And when we say Latin America, it's not across all of Latin America. It's really Brazil and Mexico. But we want to get bigger in that area. And then we want to get into some non-act penetrated European countries. So those are our 2 big ones that we did. Then the third piece of the growth era is acquisitions. So now go all the way back to our existing strategy where we're going to own conversion and retention. We now have the anchor, but there's other pieces around conversion and retention that we need to start acquiring and bolting onto the anchor platform, et cetera. So that was the growth era. And now we're sitting in like mid-2017, and I looked at my existing investor base, and I said, okay, first of all, 62% of the company was still owned by the founder, friends, family, et cetera. 38% was owned by institutional who had been in for, 4, 5, 6 years. There was some investor fatigue all over the place. The 62%, most people have been in for 15 years. And so, it's like, so I sat down with Bob and I said, Bob, brother, it's time. Tell me what it would be good for you to get out, because I need to get a new set of investors, because we have to go into the growth era. And, we kind of sat around and talked about it for a while. And he said, if you can get me this price, I'll be good. And I said, I can get you that price. Right. So we went out, started a process, ran into lots of great companies, but we settled on partnering with SFW Capital, which is a private equity based out of New York. And we basically totally recapped the company in May of 2018. So May of this year. So all the existing investors were out. Everybody's happy. We got a whole new partner in place with lots of dry capital and our dry powder, and so now we're poised to really enter into the growth era. And then we went right out and did the first acquisition really quickly. You probably have seen the press release, but we acquired a company called Kuvana, which had a product called Inbox Guru, which was a marketing automation, which is the technology that is now behind Act Marketing Automation. So we're moving, crazy in the growth era as we speak. So anyway, I'll stop there because, man, I'm talking like crazy, but that's a crazy journey, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a crazy journey. And no, thanks for sharing that roller coaster ride with us. Very exciting. And really a great look behind the curtain as far as how you guys did all this, and because it was no small feat, right? So, So now ACT is back on the scene, and there's players like Salesforce, which has a large market share. There's players like Infusionsoft, right? There's players like HubSpot now, and in the 90s, you guys had it, right? You guys had it. There was a couple other smaller ones, but so now there's some big players on the stage. How do you differentiate yourself against what these other players are doing? How do you say, come to ACT because we do this, this, and this?
Yeah. So number one, we have 30 years of experience, right? We know the small business better than anybody in the industry, right? Just because we've been around so long and we've had so many customers. If you added up the number of customers from day one, which was like April of 1987, I think is when ACT is actually founded, till now, it's well over 8 to 9 million people have used this product, right? So you think about the feedback that you're going to get throughout the years of understanding what's necessary for a small business. So, we become that trusted partner that people look at to say, like, yeah, you know what I want. And we always say we're purpose built for the small business because of that. If you take some of the other players, and I'm not going to mention them by name, but some of them are more focused on enterprise. And what they try and do is, lack of a better word, dumb it down to get to the small business. And that tends to not work. Sometimes it does, it doesn't. And you have other players that are focused on the small business, but are focused on a piece of what I'm calling conversion retention and not the whole aspect of conversion retention. So they miss the boat. So what our differentiator really is to say, listen, if you want to work with somebody that really knows small businesses and really knows how to grow small businesses, you're going to come to ACT. We're going to help you grow your business. Why? Because we now have a platform that will enable you to have a very intimate relationship with your customers and stay in connection with those customers and grow those customers. So that's really what we want to do. Now, let's take a look at the CRM industry, because I think this is really, really interesting where this is all going. It's gone like crazy over the couple of decades that you mentioned. But the analogy I'm going to use, Dave, and I'm an old guy, so I can go all the way back, and I'll show my age here. But remember, way back in the day, there was this thing called MRP. You remember, Material Resource Planning. It was a group of technology or some technology applications that were geared towards a specific function. Well, then all of a sudden, MRP went to MRP2, right, and it got broadened out a little bit. And then all of a sudden, it went from MRP2 to ERP. Right, and it was all the systems you needed to run your business at a very, very high level, and I'm talking manufacturing all the way through, et cetera. But what was missing was the customer, right? Well, then that's when CRM was born. So think about CRM is, CRM was really MRP, right? So it was the beginnings of CRM, and that lasted through the 90s into the early 2000s, et cetera. But then you're going to start seeing the CRM world go to CRM2 to eCRM, whatever you want to call it. I think that's what we're calling conversion and retention in this world, right? It's not just CRM. CRM unto itself has to have marketing automation, and it has to have service management. Those are the three big stools of what's called conversion and retention, and that's where everybody is going. You see that Zendesk, which is a service management player, just acquired Base, which is a CRM. HubSpot, all these, some of these marketing automation players say, oh yeah, we have CRM. Well, they have a little bit of a CRM, right? But HubSpot is looking for a service management player. So all these things, and even the big boys are all kind of consolidating that piece. That's where CRM is evolving to conversion retention. How do you convert your leads to customers, retain them, and grow them? And you can't just do it with just pure CRM, right? So that's why we said, hey, listen, the next generation of ACT, which we just launched in November, is a single platform that has CRM and marketing automation completely built in. Now, this is important because there's a lot of great marketing automation players out there. You named a few, Infusionsoft, HubSpot, whatever. They really don't have a good CRM. So what customers are doing is they have to use another CRM, and then they're using their products for marketing automation. Guess what you have to do, right? If you want to do something, you got to export it out of CRM. You got to import it into marketing automation. You got to do your stuff. Stuff comes back. You got to export it out of marketing automation, and you got to import it back into CRM in order to make it useful, right? Now you're taking a look at ACT, the next generation of ACT, and everything that's in CRM is already available for you in marketing automation. And everything you do in marketing automation is already built, is right there in CRM. Why? Because it's one platform and everything is in there. So I think that's where you're seeing. So the industry is really, really evolving. And I think small businesses are getting really, really smart about what they want to use. Now, there is a ton of technology out there. You know that as a small business owner, runner. And there's a lot of cheap software out there. You can get 4, 5, 6, 7 tools, and most small businesses do have 4, 5, 6, 7 tools that are running their business. The challenge is that, you have to get information out of all those. You got to make sure it's current. You got to make sure it's correct. You got to make sure it's consistent. And it's a daunting task. Now, all of a sudden, you come with a platform that says, this is going to be your authoritative source for information, and you never have to leave it. People are like, oh my God, I need that. Help me grow my business. So that's kind of where it's all going.
Yeah, it makes sense. So it basically was the missing link between CRMs and marketing automation. So now you have the 1-2 punch all in one place.
That's right. Absolutely. The next generation of ACT.
Yep. I love it. And how's it going so far?
Yeah, really good. I mean, we launched it in November, and it is really, really taking off for us. I would say that November and December have probably been two of the craziest months that we've had in the history of Swiftpage, in a positive way. We had a couple of different storms that all came together. We had a bunch of end-of-life products that were happening. We launched the next generation and all this other kind of stuff, and all of a sudden it was like boom, it really hit us. But we're having a blast. We wouldn't have it any other way.
That's awesome, and it is cloud-based now.
It is absolutely, yeah. Now, interestingly enough, you can still run it offline, right? We do allow folks to what we call client hosted. If you want to take our cloud-based software and run it inside of your four walls, you can still do that, and you can still have an offline client so that you can work offline and then sync back up to the cloud as you need to, which I think is a big differentiator for us, Dave. If you look at some of the bigger players, great if you're attached and you're working on the cloud. You want to work offline, a little bit difficult to do. So it's cloud-based. Mobile apps are attached. We have this thing called Act Companion that is really geared for the road warrior, so that if you don't want to have your tablet or your laptop or whatever, you just want to have your phone, you pop up Act Companion and you can do everything you need to do.
Very cool. So, John, this has been fantastic. So for this, a lot of Avanti entrepreneurs are small to medium-sized business owners, and it's really been a great informational podcast interview about ACT and the resurgence of ACT, not only the great comeback story, but just functionally and tactically how ACT can help you grow your sales, marketing, and actually add. Really create it into a very instigative strategy instead of the spray and pray approach that many entrepreneurs do, right? So it's you're adding you're adding science and really a game plan to your sales and marketing strategy. So very interesting, John. If they want to learn more about you, learn more about ACT, get a free trial, all that stuff, where's the best place to go?
ACT.com, ACT.com. Go there and we'll take you through the journey. You'll have some fun.
Excellent. Well, John, thank you so much. Truly appreciate your time and really love what you're doing. And I'm excited to get back with ACT and learn more about you guys. And when I'm in Denver, I would love to stop by and sit on your orange couch and have a tour of the ACT headquarters.
Absolutely. Come to the orange couch for sure. We'd love to have you.
Excellent. Well, John, thanks again. I wish you continued massive success. Avanti listeners, thank you for listening. We appreciate your time as well. Make sure to check us out on the web at AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. We have this podcast, obviously, is going to be there recorded. tons of show notes, and I have over 100 other interviews at AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Show notes, recordings, etc. A lot of resources for you. Thank you, everybody, again. Really appreciate it. Make it a great day, and stay awesome.
Thank you for listening. Head over to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com for show notes and more helpful advice from entrepreneurs like you. Continue to find your entrepreneurial rhythm at the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast.